Good morning, Year 3, and can you believe it's Friday? I feel like with every week that goes past, the time is just passing quicker and quicker. It's a very strange feeling. Well, so you're lucky that we're already at Friday because that means today, instead of covering new material, I don't want to boggle your head anymore, we're just going to be doing an exercise that is going to help us to review the grammatical knowledge that we already know. So, hopefully you remember that on Wednesday, I think it was Wednesday, we did a couple of exercises practicing using our grammatical terminology, exercising that to good use in order to explain parts of a text or analyse parts of a text, and we had a bit of a discussion about why it's important to learn grammar. In your writing lessons this week, you've been writing a story, and later on today, as part of your writing lesson, you're going to be checking for corrections in your story. Of course, you cannot correct your work or make it any better unless you already know the rules of grammar, because you're going to use the rules of grammar to check have you done everything right. And if you've done something wrong, your grammar knowledge will help you to figure out what is the right way to do it. So we're going to be practicing those kind of skills today, and you're going to get to look at a piece of writing that I did very badly, and you're going to help me to correct it. So you're going to look for my mistakes. Before we carry on with all that information for today's lesson, let's go through our pre-lesson checklist. I can have a big face today, there's lots of space on this page. So Jade and Indigo groups, you don't need to do this because you've been following the Amber videos this week. So today is your last Amber video for the week, so go over and see what Mr. Goodall has prepared for you. It sounds quite fun. And everybody else, make sure you've got a pencil and paper ready. If you like to use the printed out versions of the worksheets that I prepare for this lesson, then you can just use that for today. And once you've done that, pause the video and write the date and the LI, which is the 15th of May 2020, and the LI is to consolidate previous learning. So pause the video and get that written down. If you're still watching the video, it means you've already prepared yourself for today's lesson. As I said, today we're going to be focusing on using our grammatical knowledge and understanding how to use it in order to help us correct our writing, correct other people's writing, and explain things that people could improve in their writing. And we need those words in order to be able to do that. We have learned a lot of different types of grammatical words and concepts this half term. And before you do today's task, I want you to do something that's going to help you recap. On the Grange School website, under online learning, your parents or guardians should know where that is, there is something called the English Grammar Knowledge Organiser, and that's all the way right at the bottom of the page. When you open it up, it will look like this, over here. And it explains all the knowledge that we were supposed to learn this half term, how it all links together, and all of the key definitions that you need to know. I want you to go through each of the different words that's on here, so part of speech, word class, noun, adjective, verb, adverb, and if there's something that you're not quite sure of or you don't understand, have a look at the definition that is there and talk about it with your parent or guardian, or a friend or a brother or a sister. There's quite a lot of words on here, so we've got all the words for the different parts of speech: noun, adjective, verb, adverb, preposition, pronoun, conjunction. The only one we haven't spoken about that much this half term is article, but you did do articles in the first half of spring term, so you should remember them. We have the word subject, which we talked about a lot when we were studying clauses, and we even have the words phrase, clause, independent clause, subordinate clause, and sentence. So that was talking about all the structures of writing. Then there's a few more specific pieces of information: inverted commas and speech marks, direct speech, prefix, root word, and suffix. Suffix we haven't covered that much yet. But all the way up to prefix and root word, you should know all of these different types of words because we've been using them a lot in our grammar lessons so far. If you can, print out this page or keep a copy of it on your screen when you're doing today's task because it will help you to use the right words in your explanations. So now I'm going to show you what you need to do in today's task, and I'm going to give you an example first, so don't worry, you're going to watch me do it and then you're going to So this is your task today. It says, find the mistakes Miss Pinata has made in her writing and write feedback for each one, explaining what she has done wrong. So here's a bit of writing that I did for my story writing project this week, but this version has lots of mistakes in it because I wasn't really concentrating when I wrote it. It was the first draft. Sometimes in your first draft you do make mistakes, but we need to know how to correct them. When we're checking for mistakes, we have to think about what are the common mistakes that people often make when they're writing. We already talked this week about how a lot of people accidentally change their tense of their verbs when they're writing. So they should be writing a whole passage in one tense, for example in the past tense, but they accidentally switch and start writing in the present tense. That's a common mistake. A lot of people forget their punctuation rules when they're writing, so they might forget to use capital letters and full stops, they might forget to use the right punctuation like inverted commas where they need to be, or question marks where they need to be, or even commas where they need to be. Another mistake people often make is not writing incorrect sentences. So we spoke a lot this half term about the fact that a sentence needs to have an independent clause in it, which means it needs to have a verb and a subject and a type of clause that can stand on its own. If you're reading and you spot that a sentence is missing any of those things or any of those attributes, that means there's a mistake in it. The last mistake that a lot of people make, that is a grammatical mistake, is often they miss out small words that are very important. Sometimes people forget to put in pronouns or prepositions or conjunctions, and these are things we need to look out for. So now you know some of the common mistakes, let's read it through and see what we can spot. This is the example passage. It was a cold, rainy day. Now I can immediately see there's a mistake because this sentence has started without a capital letter and actually needs to have a capital letter put in it. So when I write my correction, I've already pre-written it for you here, I need to explain what the person's done wrong. You should have a capital letter at the beginning of a sentence, and then I've shown them how they should have written it. This is how I want you to write your feedback to me. So identify the first mistake, put number 1, and then put what I should have done, and try to use the correct grammatical terminology. You can see I've used the words capital letter and I've used the word sentence in my explanation, so I'm practicing using my grammatical vocabulary. Let's carry on. It was a cold, rainy day, with dark grey clouds scrolling across the sky. Here I can already see there's another mistake. This phrase, with dark grey clouds scrolling across the sky, is only a phrase. They've forgotten that a sentence needs to have an independent clause. There's missing a verb and a subject. It could be improved by saying, it was a cold, rainy day, get rid of this full stop, with dark grey clouds scrolling across the sky. Because then, this clause, it was a cold, rainy day, can hold up the sentence. Because remember, every single sentence needs an independent clause to hold it up. So I know that the mistake is that this sentence is not a good sentence because it's only a phrase. So in my explanation, I put, let's see what I wrote. Oh, there's more than one bit there. It says, with dark grey clouds rolling across the sky does not have a verb on the and a subject. So it can't be, it says, with dark grey clouds scrolling across the sky, and I've quoted it, does not have a verb and subject, so it can't be a sentence on its own. I can actually add there, you could join it to the previous sentence and get rid of the full stop. And that would make it a lot better. So I'm using my feedback really specifically. And I've used my technical terminology. I've used the word verb, I've used the word subject, I've used the word sentence, and I've used the word full stop. Let's carry on. A little girl, caramel skin and sleek black hair. Now I can sense already there's something missing. A little girl, caramel skin. Maybe the person meant to put, or Miss Panata meant to put a little girl with caramel skin. So there's a missing word here. When I'm giving my feedback, I need to explain what type of word is missing from the sentence. What type of word is the word with? It's called a preposition. So when I write my feedback, I need to explain that the preposition was missing. You missed the preposition with for a little girl with caramel skin. So again, I've used my grammatical vocabulary. I've used the word preposition. Let's keep going. A little girl with, it should be, caramel skin and sleek black hair is playing in the playground at her school. Now I can see that I have made one of the biggest mistakes that people make in their writing. I've switched tense. I started off by saying it was a cold, rainy day, and now I've said a girl is playing in the playground. That's wrong. I shouldn't switch tense. I should say was. So let's see what I wrote for my own feedback. Yep, you changed tense from the past tense to present tense. Is should be was. So I've given that correction too. Now there's just one more mistake in this. Let's carry on looking. This girl's name was Alia, and she had huge eyes like green orbs that were always observing. Now I have to look very carefully for this mistake, but I've seen that even though it sounds right, the way that it's written, this girl's name, girls should have an apostrophe because the name was belonging to the girl. So it needs an apostrophe of possession. That's a missing piece of punctuation. So I wrote, you missed the apostrophe for this girl's name, and I've shown the correction in my feedback. Now you're going to have a go at correcting my work in this way. For each mistake that you find, you should write a sentence explaining the mistake using the correct grammatical terminology, and if you can, showing me how it could be done better by giving me an example. Your passage is slightly different. Your passage is the one here. It says, there are at least 10 intentional mistakes in this passage below. So I actually put mistakes on purpose, and I know for sure there's at least 10. You might find more because I might not have seen something or spotted something in my own writing. And don't worry if you can find less. It just says, find and explain as many as you can. So read through the passage, and then just like I've done above, for each mistake you find, write a number and explain your feedback. So remember to use the information from the knowledge organiser to help you and prompt you with which type of words to use. And I look forward to seeing how you figure it out and what feedback you give to me. Pause the video now and have a go at correcting this passage. Also, don't forget to send in your work to me at this email address in order for your opportunity to win some class charts points.